I knew the axe was falling the day Ashley forgot to invite me to the quarterly risk review meeting I'd been running for 8 straight years. Picture this. It's 9:15 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'm sitting in my office at Pinnacle Capital Partners with my second cup of coffee, calendar blocked for our mandatory compliance briefing. The one that keeps us from getting hammered by federal regulators. I click the conference room link. Nothing. Check my email. Crickets. Then Jordan from Portfolio Analysis pings me. Hey Brody, did Ashley mean to leave you off the invite? That's when you know the writing's on the wall. My name's Brody Matthews, by the way. 49 years old, been the director of risk management here in Chicago for 12 years. Not the flashiest job title, but I'm the guy who makes sure the SEC doesn't show up with handcuffs and subpoenas. While everyone else is chasing deals and talking about disrupting the industry, I'm the one reading the fine print and making sure we don't end up in federal court. That morning, sitting in my empty office instead of running the meeting I'd created, I felt something I hadn't experienced in decades. The sick feeling of being professionally discarded. My grandfather came to this country from Ireland with nothing but a work ethic and a belief that if you did your job right, people would respect you for it. I'd built my entire career on that principle. Apparently that was about to be tested. Let me set the scene for you. Pinnacle Capital Partners isn't some startup playing with monopoly money. We manage $3.2 billion in assets, mostly private equity and real estate deals for pension funds, university endowments, and other institutional investors. These aren't day traders gambling with their lunch money. These are serious people with serious money who expect us to follow serious rules. When I started here in 2011, the financial world was still picking up pieces from the 2008 crisis. I'd seen what happened when firms got creative with compliance, when smart guys in expensive suits thought they could outsmart federal regulations. Lehman Brothers had plenty of smart people. They're not around anymore. Cooper Pinnacle built this firm from nothing back in the 90s. Old school guy who understood that in this business, your reputation is everything. One compliance violation, one SEC fine, and suddenly those institutional investors start looking elsewhere. Cooper got it. He hired me specifically because I'd spent 3 years at a firm that nearly got shut down during the financial crisis. I knew what regulatory failure looked like from the inside. For 8 years, Cooper and I had an understanding. I keep the books clean, he keeps the regulators happy. Simple deal. I wasn't trying to be the fun police, but when you're managing pension money for teachers and firefighters, you don't take shortcuts. Every quarter I'd compile a risk exposure report that was brutally honest about where we were vulnerable. Cooper would read every page, ask tough questions, and make sure we addressed every potential problem before it became a real problem. The system worked. In 12 years, we'd never had a significant SEC violation. Our institutional clients trusted us because we were boring and predictable. In finance, boring is profitable. Then Cooper had his stroke. It happened right in the middle of Q3 reporting season. 1 minute he's in the boardroom arguing with legal about new SEC disclosure requirements. Next minute, he's in Northwestern Memorial with his daughter Ashley flying in from Boston, where she'd been working at some fintech startup since finishing her Harvard MBA. I should mention that Cooper was 61, still sharp as a tack, despite the heart condition his doctor had been warning him about for years. The man worked 70-hour weeks and lived on black coffee and stress. The stroke wasn't surprising, but the timing couldn't have been worse. Within 48 hours, the board made Ashley interim CFO. I should have seen the red flags then, but I figured she'd lean on the existing team while her dad recovered. Cooper had always been proud of Ashley, talked about how smart she was, how she had all these new ideas about modernizing the firm. What he didn't mention was that she thought everything we'd built was outdated. Ashley's first week, she called a leadership meeting, showed up in designer jeans and one of those expensive blazers that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, had a PowerPoint presentation called Pinnacle 2.0. Beyond legacy thinking, I'm sitting there with the other department heads, listening to this 28-year-old explain how we needed to embrace agile compliance frameworks and leverage risk-positive investment strategies. She kept using phrases like regulatory arbitrage and compliance optimization that sounded impressive but meant absolutely nothing in the real world of SEC oversight. The slide that really got me was titled Operational Bloat Analysis. Had a nice chart showing all the departments she wanted to streamline for enhanced velocity. Risk management was right there at the top, with a bullet point about redundant oversight functions that impede deal flow. I raised my hand. Ashley, can you clarify what you mean by redundant oversight? Because the SEC requires specific compliance procedures for institutional fund management. She smiled, that Harvard MBA smile. Brody, I appreciate your institutional knowledge, but we're operating in a post-crisis regulatory environment. The compliance requirements you're referencing were designed for a different era of risk management. Post-crisis regulatory environment. She was 28 years old. She was barely in high school when Lehman Brothers collapsed. After the meeting, I pulled her aside. Kept it professional. Just wanted to explain how the regulatory landscape actually worked for our type of firm. She listened for about 30 seconds, then cut me off. Brody, I appreciate the history lesson, but we're not living in 2008 anymore. The industry has evolved. We need people who can move fast, not people who slow us down with unnecessary procedures. Unnecessary procedures. That's what she called the compliance framework that had kept us violation-free for over a decade. That night, I went home to my wife Jennifer and told her what happened. We've been married 23 years, and she knows me well enough to see when I'm worried. Really worried. What does this mean for us? She asked. We've got 2 kids in college, a mortgage in Evanston, and I'm 49 years old. You don't just bounce back from getting fired at my age, especially not in a specialized field like compliance. I don't know, I told her. But I've got a bad feeling about where this is heading. Over the next month, I watched Ashley systematically dismantle everything Cooper and I had built. First, she canceled the weekly risk committee meetings, said they were bureaucratic theater that adds no value to stakeholder outcomes. Then she merged the compliance review process with general operations to eliminate redundant touchpoints and accelerate decision velocity. The woman spoke in buzzwords like she was reading from a consulting firm's playbook. Every conversation was full of phrases like synergistic optimization and paradigm-shifting methodologies. It was like listening to someone who'd learned business from LinkedIn posts instead of actual experience. But the real problem started when she began pushing through investment approvals without proper due diligence documentation. We had a process for verifying accredited investor status, stress testing portfolio exposure, making sure all SEC filing requirements were met before committing institutional funds. Ashley called it analysis paralysis and implemented what she called intelligent streamlining protocols. I tried to push back through proper channels. Sent detailed emails outlining specific regulatory requirements under Section 10b-5 of the Securities Exchange Act. Requested meetings to discuss compliance concerns related to Form 13F filings. Each time I got the same response. Thanks for the comprehensive input, Brody. We'll incorporate your feedback into our evolving framework. Corporate speak for we're ignoring you. Then I started getting cut out of investment committee meetings. My access to certain portfolio databases got mysteriously revoked. Ashley's assistant would apologize and say it was probably just a temporary IT synchronization issue, but somehow the glitches only affected me. The writing was on the wall, but I'd been in this business long enough to know how to protect myself. Every compliance officer worth their salary keeps documentation. Not because you're paranoid, but because when things go sideways, you need to prove you were doing your job. I'd been keeping detailed logs of every approval that bypassed proper procedures, every risk assessment that got fast-tracked, every SEC requirement that Ashley's team chose to ignore. All time-stamped, all saved to an encrypted external drive I kept locked in my desk drawer. Screenshots of email chains, copies of modified investment committee minutes, records of database access logs that showed when and how regulatory protocols were circumvented. I wasn't planning to be a whistleblower. I was just covering my bases in case anyone tried to blame the compliance department for regulatory failures that were happening above my head. Jennifer could see the stress eating at me. I'd come home and sit at the kitchen table, staring at my laptop, trying to figure out how to document violations without looking like I was building a case against my own company. Some nights I'd be up until 2 a.m., encrypting files and organizing documentation by violation type and regulatory statute. You need to talk to someone about this, she said one evening. Maybe call that lawyer friend of yours from the country club. It's not that simple, I told her. If I'm wrong about what Ashley's doing, I look like a disgruntled employee who can't adapt to new leadership. If I'm right, then I'm documenting securities violations at my own firm. The stress was affecting everything. I lost 15 pounds that month, stopped sleeping through the night, and caught myself snapping at colleagues who had nothing to do with any of this. My blood pressure medication got doubled after a routine checkup where my doctor looked genuinely concerned. But what really kept me awake was knowing that every day Ashley's new protocols stayed in place. we were getting deeper into potential SEC violation territory. The pension funds and university endowments that trusted us with their money had no idea their investments were being managed by someone who thought regulatory compliance was optional. The final straw came during a portfolio review meeting in late October. Ashley was presenting Q3 performance numbers to our largest institutional client, the Illinois Teachers' Retirement System. Their investment committee had flown in from Springfield specifically to review risk exposure across their alternative investment allocation. I wasn't invited to the meeting, but Jordan slipped me a copy of Ashley's presentation afterward. What I saw made my stomach drop. Ashley had completely misrepresented the risk profile of 3 major real estate investments, properties that our internal stress tests showed as high volatility. High-reward positions were being presented to the teacher's pension fund as stable income-generating assets with conservative risk parameters. This wasn't just regulatory corner-cutting anymore. This was outright misrepresentation to institutional investors. The kind of thing that results in federal fraud charges, not just compliance violations. That night, I showed Jennifer the presentation materials alongside our internal risk assessments. She's not in finance, but she understood enough to see the discrepancy. Brody, this is serious. These people are responsible for teachers' retirement security. I know, but if I report this internally, Ashley will just say I'm trying to undermine her authority. If I go external, you'll be doing the right thing. She was right, but doing the right thing at 49 years old with 2 kids in college and a mortgage wasn't simple. I'd spent 12 years building relationships in this industry. Going public with securities violations would make me unhireable at any major financial firm. Compliance officers who blow the whistle don't get second chances. But I also couldn't sit by and watch institutional investors get defrauded by someone who thought SEC regulations were suggestions. The decision was made for me the following week when Ashley called another leadership meeting. This one was different. She had charts showing organizational restructuring plans, budget reallocation proposals, and a new org chart that looked nothing like the company Cooper had built. "We're entering a new phase of operational excellence," she announced. "Some legacy positions will be transitioned out to make room for growth-oriented roles that align with our modernized investment philosophy." I looked at the new org chart. Director of Risk Management wasn't on it anywhere. "Ashley," I said, "what happens to regulatory compliance in this new structure?" "Compliance will be integrated into our operational workflow rather than functioning as a separate bureaucratic bottleneck. We're moving toward embedded risk assessment rather than centralized oversight." Translation, we're getting rid of the compliance department and hoping nobody notices. That meeting ended with Ashley scheduling individual discussions with each department head about their role in the restructured organization. My meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon. That weekend, I sat in my home office going through 12 years of files. My original plan was just to organize everything for my own records, maybe prepare for unemployment meetings with headhunters. But as I reviewed Jordan's files alongside my encrypted documentation, I started seeing patterns that made my stomach turn. Ashley hadn't just been cutting corners on compliance. She'd been systematically falsifying investor communications, backdating investment committee approvals, and misrepresenting portfolio risk exposure to limited partners. Some of the violations I was looking at carried potential criminal penalties under Rule 10b-5 of the Securities Exchange Act. The most damning evidence was in the Form 13F filings. These are quarterly reports that investment advisors with over $100 million in assets have to file with the SEC, listing their equity holdings. Ashley's team had been submitting forms that showed conservative, diversified portfolios to regulators, while the actual positions were concentrated in high-risk real estate derivatives and leveraged buyout deals. I found email chains where Ashley had instructed junior analysts to massage the position data for cleaner reporting. In one particularly brazen message, she wrote, "The SEC doesn't need to see our full risk profile. Give them something that looks institutional and boring," but the smoking gun was buried in the system logs. Ashley had used her CFO access credentials to directly manipulate the portfolio management database, changing position sizes and risk ratings after trades had already settled. Every keystroke was automatically logged with timestamps, creating a perfect audit trail of securities fraud. Jennifer found me in the office at 2 a.m., still going through documents. "Brody, you need to come to bed. You've been at this for 6 hours." I looked up at her, probably looking like hell. "Jen, I think Ashley might go to prison for this stuff." She sat down in the chair across from my desk. "What are you talking about?" I explained what I'd found. The falsified reports, the manipulated data, The clear pattern of investor deception. Jennifer listened without interrupting, her expression getting more serious with each detail. "So what are you going to do?" she asked. That was the question, wasn't it? I could pretend I'd never seen any of this, file for unemployment, and hope some other firm would hire a 49-year-old compliance officer. Or I could do what my profession actually required, report securities violations to the appropriate authorities. "I think I have to call the SEC," I said. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. "You know what this means, right? You'll be a whistleblower in this industry. That's not something people forget." She was right. The financial services world is smaller than people think, especially at the senior level. Word gets around, even if I was legally protected under whistleblower statutes. There's an unspoken rule about not airing your firm's dirty laundry in public. But sitting there at 2 a.m., looking at evidence of systematic fraud involving pension fund investments, I kept thinking about those teachers and firefighters whose retirement money Ashley was playing games with. They trusted us to be boring and careful with their futures. The SEC whistleblower portal isn't complicated. Just a secure website where you upload documentation and wait for someone to review it. I'd never thought I'd be using it, but here we were. I spent the next week organizing everything into clear chronological packages, portfolio misvaluations with supporting system logs, email chains showing deliberate circumvention of accredited investor verification procedures, board presentations that directly contradicted internal risk assessments that Ashley had buried. The final package was the most damning, a complete audit trail showing how Ashley had used her CFO access to manipulate quarterly reports to limited partners, making high-risk positions look like conservative investments. I included screenshots of the original system entries alongside the falsified reports sent to investors. I also documented the systematic dismantling of our compliance infrastructure, meeting minutes where Ashley had eliminated oversight procedures, internal memos where she'd instructed staff to bypass SEC reporting requirements, a paper trail showing deliberate regulatory violations, not just negligent mistakes. The hardest part was writing the cover letter. The SEC wants context, not just raw data. I had to explain how Pinnacle had operated under Cooper's leadership, what changed under Ashley's management, and why these violations represented a clear pattern of investor fraud. I uploaded everything on a Sunday night. Took about 3 hours to get all the files submitted with proper documentation and cross-references. The confirmation page was simple. Your submission has been received. Case number WB 2024-7891. Preliminary review will begin within 30 business days. For the first month, nothing happened. Ashley started doing interviews with financial publications, talking about Pinnacle's innovative approach to institutional investing. There was a photo of her in Investment Weekly standing in what used to be my office, explaining how the firm had moved beyond outdated risk management protocols. The article quoted her saying, "Traditional compliance frameworks were designed for a pre-digital era. We're using artificial intelligence and algorithmic risk assessment to achieve better outcomes for our investors while maintaining full regulatory compliance." Reading that interview, I almost laughed. We didn't have AI or algorithmic anything. Ashley had just eliminated the human oversight that caught problems before they became violations. Jordan kept me updated on the office dynamics. Ashley had promoted 2 junior analysts to senior positions, both people who'd been enthusiastic supporters of her streamlining initiatives. The guy who replaced me as interim risk manager was 26 years old with an economics degree and no compliance experience. "She's telling everyone that the old way of doing things was holding the firm back." Jordan texted me, says Cooper was too conservative, and that's why we weren't competing effectively with other PE firms. Meanwhile, I kept checking the whistleblower portal, but all I got was the same automated message. Review in progress. Then, on a Wednesday morning in early December, Jordan texted me, "Something's happening. 3 people in suits just walked into the building. They're asking for Ashley." An hour later, my phone rang, blocked number. "Mr. Matthews, this is Agent Peterson with the SEC's Division of Enforcement. We need to discuss your recent submission." They wanted to meet in person, not at the Pinnacle offices, obviously. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop in the Loop the next morning. Agent Peterson was exactly what you'd expect from a federal investigator. Mid-40s, generic suit, briefcase full of documents. But she knew her stuff. Had clearly read every file I'd submitted and understood the regulatory implications. "Your documentation is very thorough," she said, spreading printouts across the table. We've been able to verify most of these transactions through our own database queries. What we need from you is context. For the next 2 hours, I walked her through Ashley's systematic dismantling of Pinnacle's compliance infrastructure, explained how the firm had operated under Cooper's leadership versus Ashley's new approach, provided details about specific violations and their potential impact on investor funds. The Form 13F discrepancies alone represent potential fraud charges, Peterson said, making notes. But what concerns us more is the pattern. This wasn't negligence or oversight. Someone was deliberately misrepresenting portfolio positions to both regulators and investors. I showed her the system logs proving Ashley had personally altered position data after trades had settled. Explained how the compliance review process had been eliminated, allowing violations to compound without detection. How long do you think this has been going on? Peterson asked. Based on the transaction logs, it started about 6 weeks after Ashley took over as CFO. Got progressively worse as she gained confidence in her ability to avoid scrutiny. Peterson nodded. We'll need you to testify if this goes to formal proceedings. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Jennifer's concerns about being blacklisted in the industry, about finding another job at 49, about the mortgage and college tuitions and everything riding on my career. Yes, I said. These violations put investor funds at risk. That's exactly what compliance officers are supposed to prevent. Peterson smiled for the first time. We'll be in touch. In the meantime, please don't discuss this conversation with anyone. 3 weeks later, Jordan called me at 7 a.m., practically whispering into the phone. They're everywhere, she said. SEC investigators, federal marshals, the works. They showed up with a truck full of boxes and started seizing computer equipment. Ashley's locked in the conference room with her lawyers. By noon, it was all over the financial news. Pinnacle Capital Partners under federal investigation for securities violations. The initial reports mentioned potential investor fraud, regulatory violations, and misrepresentation of fund performance. Ashley's LinkedIn profile went dark that afternoon. Her Twitter account, where she'd been posting about revolutionizing institutional finance, disappeared by evening. Cooper called me the next day. First time we'd spoken since his stroke, and he sounded tired but clear. Brody, he said, voice still a little slurred from his recovery. I just got briefed on what Ashley did, what she did to you. I didn't say anything, just listened. I built this firm on trust, investor trust, regulatory compliance, doing things the right way. When I hired you, it was because I knew you understood that. I'm sorry I wasn't there to stop this. Cooper, you were in the hospital recovering from a stroke. You couldn't have known what Ashley was planning. I should have known better than to give her that much authority without proper oversight. And I sure as hell should have known better than to let her fire the one person who could have prevented this disaster. The conversation went on for another 20 minutes. Cooper explaining how the board had panicked when the SEC showed up, how they'd immediately terminated Ashley's authority and brought in outside counsel to assess the damage. The lawyers are telling me we're looking at significant fines, he said. Probably 8 figures. Ashley's facing potential criminal charges. The whole thing's a nightmare. 2 weeks later, Peterson called to update me on the investigation's progress. We've confirmed multiple violations of securities laws, she said. Falsification of regulatory filings, investor fraud, manipulation of portfolio valuations. Your documentation was instrumental in building our case. The SEC investigation took 8 months to complete. When it was over, Pinnacle faced $14.5 million in fines and penalties. Ashley was barred from the securities industry for 5 years and agreed to personal fines of $2.8 million. 3 other executives who had gone along with her schemes received lesser penalties. The day the settlement was announced, Cooper called again. I want you to come back, he said without preamble, Chief Risk Officer position. Significant salary increase, equity stake in the firm, direct reporting to the board of directors. I was quiet for a moment. Cooper, I'm a whistleblower now. That's not something people in this industry forget. Then they're idiots, he said. You did exactly what a compliance officer should do when faced with securities violations. You protected investor funds and regulatory integrity. That's the person I want running risk management. We negotiated terms for 2 weeks. I insisted on written guarantees about compliance authority, board-level reporting, and veto power over any investment that didn't meet regulatory standards. Cooper agreed to everything. My first day back, the entire staff was assembled in the main conference room. Cooper introduced me as the new chief risk officer and made it clear that compliance would never again be treated as optional. Brody Matthews risked his career to protect this firm's integrity, he told the room. Anyone who has a problem with strong compliance oversight is welcome to work somewhere else. These days, I speak at industry conferences about the importance of institutional compliance. Get invited to regulatory roundtables where federal officials want to hear from practitioners who've seen both sides of enforcement actions. The story always gets attention because it's not the usual whistleblower narrative. I wasn't some junior employee who stumbled onto wrongdoing. I was a senior executive who got fired for doing my job correctly, then used my professional expertise to document violations comprehensively enough for federal prosecution. Ashley tried to give me a reality check when she fired me, telling me my father had given me a meaningless title and that I was just a relic of an outdated era. Turns out I gave her the real reality check. Federal prosecutors don't care about your MBA or your innovative theories about regulatory arbitrage. They care about whether you followed securities laws, and when you don't, they have ways of making sure you learn the difference. Sometimes the most dangerous person in a company isn't the one making waves. It's the quiet professional who's been documenting everything, while everyone else was too busy celebrating their own brilliance. In the end, Ashley learned that firing the person who built your safety net doesn't eliminate the risks. It just guarantees that when those risks finally catch up with you, there's no one left who cares enough to help you survive the fall.